Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. That's just what's been going through my mind, probably like the last 6 years. But hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Josh. Welcome to the R-rated show. Welcome to my review of the Rise of Skywalker. I just decided I finally need to get this off my plate because I guess I've been procrastinating a little bit. I just really haven't been. I've been wanting to do it, but it's like I know I need it to happen, but I haven't really been wanting to talk about Rise of Skywalker and more Star Wars and there's other things I've been wanting to do, but it's been long enough, and I just need to get my feelings and thoughts out there and give you my review so we can just move past this train wreck, right? But let's just get into it. I don't want to waste too much of your time. There's just been a ton of Star Wars stuff out there. There's tons of the Rise of Skywalker stuff out there. A lot of great videos. This is not going to be some giant thesis breaking down every little detail and calling out every little detail about the movie. This is just a quick review because those other YouTubers who are doing that are doing a great job, and I'm not going to repeat everything they've already said. And I don't really want to spend like 3 days working on a long, drawn out video breaking down why this movie sucks because it's just too depressing, man. I don't have the interest. So, man, where do I even start with this? I guess, real quick, when Disney bought Star Wars, I was like, oh man, they're gonna kill it. They know they're gonna learn from what George Lucas did wrong in the prequels, and Disney is a really competent company. They occasionally do something to give you a moment of pause, but for the most part, it's they got the power to get the best in the industry to make the best movies that they can possibly make, and they have a great blueprint to make good Star Wars movies. I'm sure they're going to craft something amazing. Then they announced J.J. Abrams is going to helm it. And I was like, okay. I mean, I guess what he did with the Star Trek stuff was interesting. I'm not a huge Trekkie, but I do prefer like the original Star Trek stuff, like all the Star Trek 1, 2, well, let's say Star Trek 2, 3, and 4, I really enjoy a lot, but I really like the original crew of Star Trek, the original TV series. I liked The Next Generation and all that. Then J.J. Abrams came along, rebooted it, given a facelift, and I was kind of like, I know that hardcore Star Trek fans don't like those J.J. Abrams movies, but I could see what he was kind of doing with it, making it a little bit more modern and more of just these regular sort of action sci-fi movies, and I was fine with that or whatever. But so now we're applying that to Star Wars, and I was like, oh, I don't know about that. But when I started seeing stuff coming out of Lucasfilm and a trailer, especially like the Chewie we're home moment, I was like, holy shit. So I was like getting really hyped for the Disney Star Wars. I saw The Force Awakens and I just absolutely hated it. I hated how we got bait and switched. I hated Han's death. I didn't like the new characters. It was a rehash. It was just, very glossy, didn't feel aesthetically like a Star Wars movie. Who is this Rey character? Why is she so perfect at everything? Yada, yada, yada. I was like, well, they had to, this monumental task. They had a lot on their plate, a lot of pressure. Let's give them a mulligan on that one, and we'll say that could be passable, even though I really just, I don't ever get the inkling to ever watch that movie. I don't like The Force Awakens, so whatever. I was like, they set up some new characters. Maybe they're going to take it someplace interesting. And so I felt very burned by The Force Awakens. And I had like a Force Awakens poster on my wall, and I just took that shit down. Then we heard Rian Johnson was going to be the director of The Last Jedi, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. New guy, maybe bring some fresh ideas to it. We started seeing stuff come out of there, of the Lucasfilm camp images. Then we got a teaser, it's time for the Jedi to end. You're like, ooh, well, what's that mean? Intrigued my interest. Looked like something different stylistically. The posters were coming out, and I liked the red motif, and they were being a little bit more artsy with art direction on the poster. I thought it was cool. And I had my hopes really high. I saw The Last Jedi opening day, and I initially thought that was pretty cool because it was like it did something different than, it wasn't a beat for it wasn't a shot for shot, beat for beat sort of remake of Empire. Although going back and rewatching it, the more I saw it, the more I began to really have problems with it. Hated it. I ended up like not liking that one either. It's my personal opinion. I know some people out there, Star Wars fans, like Last Jedi, but I think the tragic downfall is I think what they did to Luke was really what Rian Johnson, how he decided to write Luke's character, just didn't work. It was actually really terrible. I feel bad for Mark Hamill and how it completely deflated him. You could tell during all the press tours and stuff that he just really was not feeling it at all. Ruined Luke's legacy. Rose Tico was an awful character. The whole Casino Planet thing was bad. So even though I was initially happy that we didn't get served up reheated leftovers, in the end, they did end up doing a lot of damage to the Star Wars franchise. And so at the end of the day, I have to say that it was a pretty awful movie. And just the fact that it divided the fandom so much should be an indication that they just made a really poor decision with Rian Johnson. I don't think he's a terrible director. Knives Out was an excellent movie. I think that Kathleen Kennedy putting him in a position of power to create a Star Wars movie was a mistake, because he's not the right mindset. He's not the type of creative person to helm a Star Wars movie. You have to tread on that territory very lightly, because it's a very delicate balance. And I think George Lucas knows this. I think Dave Filoni knows this probably. It's a specific tone. The story needs to unfold in a very specific way. The characters have to be very sort of specifically driven. The Star Wars fan needs to. We gotta have. It's a larger than life. It's not a regular Star Wars franchise. So Star Wars fans gotta have certain elements in there to appreciate it. I think to respect it as a Star Wars movie, and it's just the mythos of these characters is very important, and to smash them, to make Han Solo a bum and to make Luke Skywalker a bum, and I just don't know, man. The Rey character's bad. So moving on from The Last Jedi, all the other movies were a bust for me. I mean, I guess Rogue One was sort of passable. Best one aesthetically looked the most like a Star Wars movie. But I don't care about those characters. The story was just sort of like needless. The Vader stuff was cool, but it was very fan servicey. And then, Solo was just whatever, bad. And that was very much a litmus test of how off track Disney Star Wars is. So what I'm doing here is I'm just setting you up for the context of the way that I'm viewing these movies, which is from a definitely more of a very critical, unhappy with Disney Star Wars standpoint. So that's just my personal opinion, but I'm just being honest here. So Last Jedi. So you got 2 out of 3 movies in the trilogy awful in their own way. And so going into this, I'm just thinking to myself, how can it be good? Even if it's a passable movie, even if they do something better with this one, it's part of, all 3 of these movies are important to each other. They're related to each other. It's a sequel trilogy. It's a saga. So it's just bad. It's just the whole thing's in the garbage can. It's 2 out of 3 are bad. It's just done. So I'm like, let's just have an awful movie so we have something to talk about. Train wreck it so we can bury it, put it to rest, and move on with our lives, because I'm just so sick of Star Wars, man. And it's just sad because it's been such a big part of my life. I was born in the 70s, grew up in the 80s, and I always looked to Star Wars as a pleasant thing, and now it's just like, Star Wars, So here we go, 3rd movie, and just the leaks were coming out, people talking, speculating, and I was like, man, that sounds horrible. And it ended up being like the leaks were true, man, if you can believe that. And it was just like, wow, it was unbelievably bad. I really always try to go into a movie with an open mind, because it's just only fair, but this just had so much negative going for it. And you were hearing that they were showing audiences versions of the movies. They were recutting, reshooting stuff all the way up to like 2 or 3 months out from the release date, rushing stuff together. And that's just what this movie feels like, is rushed. The edit is just very hectic. You don't have any time to sit and reflect on anything that's just occurred. Something pretty substantial happen, or bombastic, and then boom, you're on right into the next thing, boom, right into the next thing. It's just a chain of like bombastic events and action, and you're just like, what is happening? Like, I was just exhausted about halfway through, and about in the last 20 to 30 minutes of the movie, man, I just had a stomach ache. Like I just had so much anxiety from watching the movie, and that was because of what was happening in front of my eyes, and it was emotional and visual sort of anxiety, and then just trying to like constantly in the back of my mind process all the shit that I just watched. And I was just like so tired. I was just ready for the movie to be over, and I was just not feeling, I wasn't vibing on any of it. It didn't feel like Star Wars to me. And it just felt like really desperate and lazy. Like, a big criticism of mine was that it was lazy, like the writing. Every time they would get hemmed up in the movie, something very convenient would come along. And for example, I'll give you a couple examples. One would be when they're in the desert and they're fleeing the First Order or Final Order or whatever the fuck you call them. They're in the desert. They hit like a quicksand, and then they just fall through into these caves. Like, what? They just fall through. Nobody's hurt at all. Nobody dies. They just fall through the sand, and then they're magically in these caves where they happen to find something they need. And it's just like, what? Like, how convenient is that? Another part, like Zori Bliss is a character just there for convenience, man. And she gives Poe a coin that I guess gives them access, and it's just like, it was just there to help them write themselves out of a corner, to make things easy to move on to the next thing. I was just sitting there shaking my head, like, what? Like, why is that? Like, how it's insulting to Star Wars fans to have this easily written lazy stuff in a Star Wars movie. It was just atrociously bad. Characters die and come back right away. Chewie blows up. Turns out he was just on another ship, so he's fine 5 minutes later. And then, 3PO has his mind wiped, but then R2's got a backup, so he's fine. Don't worry about that. Kylo Ren dies. Don't worry, he comes back. This creature down here in the caves, it dies, but no, don't worry, we'll bring him back. It's just people. Even Rey dies at the end, and then Kylo brings her back, and then Kylo dies. It's just like, oh my god, dude! Like, what the hell is going on? This movie's fucking awful. And I hear that there were multiple cuts based off not only the corporate identities at Disney, the decision makers, but also from their input, but also from like the fan input, because fans were showing these to small groups, doing screenings, trying to get feedback, and people were hating things that they were doing, and so they were changing it. And then I hear that they just did a final cut that wasn't even approved by J.J. Abrams. It's just a whole clusterfuck. Like, how fucking disorganized and confused and awful can a movie be? Like, this is what happens when corporations try to make a movie, and it's so obvious that J.J. Abrams was just a good, obedient lapdog that they needed to film a movie because he was competent enough, but they knew that they could manipulate it and do what they wanted to with it. The final product ended up being a piece of shit instead of being an artistically inspired thing, which I got to give some credit to The Last Jedi. At least Rian Johnson tried to be authentic. He made his movie, and so that's at least respectable, even if you don't like it. But this was just a corporate clusterfuck, cut and paste, like, headache, migraine of a fucking movie. I watched it another time, like a couple weeks later at home. I watched it again, and I just, like, it just seemed even more stupid to me second time around, because I had time to like anticipate things that were going to happen that flew by me. There's like so much stuff that happens in the movie on your first viewing that you don't even remember it by the time the movie's over, because you're just been so bombarded by stuff. So I saw it the second time. You anticipate things happening. You're like, oh, it's just incredibly stupid. There's a lot of characters in here that are introduced that are just completely thrown away. Zori Bliss is just completely dumb character. I mean, just ridiculously dumb. Lando's invited back to be in this movie. He's in it a little bit. He's fine, but at least I would say that at least he didn't ruin his character, which I was convinced they were gonna do. But he's in it. He's inconsequential, really. The other new actress that's in this one, Naomi, I don't know what her name is. I can't remember. It doesn't matter. She doesn't really do anything important. She's just there. She's another defected. What do you call it? Yeah, a defected stormtrooper like Finn. So there's that connection there, and supposedly she's Lando's daughter. I don't know. Whatever. None of these characters do anything special, mean anything. It's all just a bunch of horse shit. I don't like any of the characters. I don't like Rey. She's just like, terrible Star Wars kid. She says there's no feeling of importance with anything she does. They're trying so hard to make you feel that way, but it just doesn't feel like any of it's earned. Daisy Ridley as an actress is just really bland to me. I'm sorry. I mean, she might be great in other stuff, but in a Star Wars environment, she's always got like this default and like sort of disposition about her, which is like she always seems very disgruntled through all these movies, and like even when she's smiling and being nice, it feels inauthentic. So I don't really like her, and I don't like her character. I don't like anything she does in this movie. I don't like the fact that at the end she just usurps the name Skywalker. Why would you do that? Were her and Luke Skywalker even friends? Did they like each other? They spent a little bit of time on that Octu planet. And they got halfway through some training, and she like attacked him with a lightsaber, and then she just left him there. And the last thing I think he said to her was, "This isn't gonna end the way you think." It's just. Did Luke like her? Why would she take his name? And then why does she have a yellow lightsaber? Why she bury the lightsabers on Tatooine at the Moisture Farm? Why is she even at the Moisture Farm to honor Luke? Because you never get a sense of her honoring Luke. There's Luke and Leia standing off in the distance as just. I don't want to turn this into a big rant. The movie stinks. I don't like it. The whole sequel trilogy stinks. These guys right up here on the screen, these over here. These guys are the ones that are, and Bob Iger, I guess, too, are the ones that are held accountable for this terrible Star Wars sequel trilogy. In my opinion, they don't hang together as a sequel trilogy very well at all. They didn't have a good plan. They didn't. The directors were, I think, extremely pressured to make films that were good, that could please the audience, but were corporately controlled in some way. It just doesn't work, man. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. The movies are bad. In my personal opinion, I don't like them. They're lame. It is an epic fail by Disney. That's my final decision on these Disney Star Wars movies, I guess. I just don't like them, I know some Star Wars fans like them. I think my brother's a huge Star Wars fan. He's younger than me, but not by much. And he said The Rise of Skywalker was like one of the best movies in the sequel trilogy, or is the best movie in the sequel trilogy, one of the best Star Wars movies, I guess. And he really liked all the stuff that was in it, and the fan service and the story. And I just don't, to me, it doesn't work. Like, I don't like it. And I guess you could say it was because, hey, Josh, maybe you were anticipating a bad movie and that's why it was awful. But no, I always try to go into a movie with an open mind, and it was just terrible. Neck-breaking pacing on the editing. It just gave me a headache, and the Emperor stuff was really dumb and forced. The characters are no good. Rey's no good. I just don't like any of it. I'm sorry. I'm just not into it. So finally, it's over, and we can just mourn. And at least I will put this away for a while and take a break from Star Wars. We don't need another Star Wars movie for like 4 years. Like, just take a break. Take your time. Craft a story. Write a good script. Spend a lot of time casting it well. Find good talent to direct it. Somebody who's going to nurture Star Wars and really think about what it means to be a Star Wars movie and a Star Wars director, and mythology, and build characters that really mean something to people and aren't like these little identity, diversity tick boxes or whatever, like political megaphones for, the powers that be or whatever. Like, just write a good, simple character. I think that's why Mandalorian works, is because it's just sort of back to the essence of what Star Wars is, which is like a sort of simple concept with some more complicated subtext underneath it based off something, and not just random things thrown together with a bunch of nostalgia gloss coat on top. So who knows what the future of Star Wars holds, but I'm glad that this is over with, because I'm really fucking burned out on it, man. And I don't have any desire to watch these movies, the sequel trilogy at least. I can go back and watch me some prequel, but I don't know how these are going to hold up over time. It's completely split the fan base, completely fractured them down the middle. I don't think The Rise of Skywalker helped at all. I think it was a pretty empty gesture towards the fans. I think it was too late, honestly. So there you have it. That's Star Wars Disney-fied. It's lame. This movie's lame. It's an epic fail. It's embarrassingly bad. I'm sorry, but I just can't get on board with it, man. Just can't do it. But I always keep a little bit of hope alive that maybe somewhere down the line they'll get their shit together or figure out something that works and find some good talent. Definitely fire Kathleen Kennedy. Get her out of there. You have a good legacy of work behind you, Kathleen, and you've done a lot of good for blockbuster movies, especially back in the 80s, but you just didn't work out, unfortunately, in this position. I think that you have your priorities wrong. It's pretty obvious that you don't understand Star Wars. So if you care about Star Wars and you care about, continuing the legacy, of Star Wars into the future, hand it off to somebody who is better suited for this sort of thing, and turn your attention to something else and put your passion into that, and leave our Star Wars alone, for the love of God, please. So who knows what we're probably gonna get more Mandalorian next, maybe some Darth Maul, maybe some Obi-Wan. I'll always check it out, but please just let me have a break from Star Wars for a while. God damn. But that's it. That's my review of The Rise of Skywalker. I know I glazed over a lot of stuff, but I just really didn't want this video to be super long. So anyway, thanks for listening. Please hit subscribe if you like this video. I really appreciate all the subs I've been getting lately. I think in like a week and a half, 2 weeks, I got another 115 subs or something. Like, we passed the 800 mark. We're well on our way to 1,000. Definitely want to get there. So please hit subscribe and the bell for notifications. Thank you for listening, guys. And as always, stay awesome, stay R-rated. Cheers. Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. We've got a lot of great content coming for you this year. We've got reviews for movies, comics, and more. And of course, we will always have fan commentaries for the movies you love. Lots of talk about horror and just mainstream pop culture in general. And probably some Star Wars stuff leading up to Rise of Skywalker. So go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications. And yeah, become a fan of the channel. Let's hear what you want to see. Leave a comment below and just let me know what you think. Alright guys, talk to you later.